Hi, everyone. Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone is having a nice Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday. It is Monday, though, so again, that means this afternoon we're talking with Josh Planos from the Better Business Bureau. Again, keeping an eye on our wallets here to kind of make sure we're not getting into trouble. So let's go ahead and bring in Josh. Josh, how was your Thanksgiving? How was the holiday weekend for you?
It was good, Bill. Like we were talking about, I went all the way over to the West Coast where the weather was far nicer. But I'm happy to be back in
Yes.
Nebraska. And, it seems like we've got a little warm up coming, from what I understand.
Yes, a little bit out of the freezer. Obviously, had a kind of our first snow of the season, which, I thought it was nice, but again, it was treacherous at times. It's always difficult driving during that first snow of the season. There were a lot of accidents here in Lincoln. I was almost one of them myself a couple times trying to run some errands Saturday night.
Yeah, it does seem like the first time we have to relearn quite a few things, like how to slow down a touch and leave a little bit more wiggle room between us and the car in front of us. But I'm glad that you're okay and accounted for.
We do, in fact, need to increase our stopping distance when there is snow and ice on the ground. So, Josh, you always, again, have very timely topics for us to talk about. And again, today is no different. It being Cyber Monday, again, just getting done with Black Friday and all the rest of the holiday shopping. But we're talking about gift cards today. Huge issue. Gift card scams, fraud, things like that.
Yeah, when we wrote the original study, which we actually just recently updated last week, the original study was written in 2021. At the time, gift cards had been the most popular item for 14 consecutive years. And that popularity only increased during the pandemic. Scammers, of course, like to know what's popular and to try to wedge their way into that market. Gift cards are also a really easy payday since those transactions are irreversible. So that money is essentially not coming back once it's been sent to a scammer, unlike, say, paying for a counterfeit product with a credit card. That has some built-in fraud protection. Gift cards do not. So it's both a popular gift. It's a gift that carries some confusion with the advent of digital cards. Folks don't really understand if that URL or scanner code has been repurposed or taken from elsewhere online. It's also a mode of payment that's incredibly difficult to police. So throughout the holiday season, you're going to see a lot of folks asking for payment for a variety of scams, not just for certain goods. You're going to see advanced payday lenders asking for payment with gift cards. Folks who can invest cryptocurrency for you, but only if you pay them in gift cards. So anytime really anyone asks you to pay for a product with a gift card and it's not the retailer that provided you with the gift card, some red flags should go off in your head because unfortunately that's what we're monitoring a lot of nationwide at the Better Business Bureau.
And that study you referenced is what we have pulled up here. Again, and it has some really interesting stats and just information. And a lot of the data is through the end of September, which obviously, well into November, I would imagine a lot of these topics discussed in this study, scams, number of scams, just dollar figures lost from these scams would probably spike probably in the months of November and in December.
Yeah, the statistic that really jumped out to a lot of us, right, is right there, I think, in the headline, which is that fraud reports to the BBB involving gift cards as a form of payment spiked in the first 3 quarters of the year, up by 50% from the same period in 2022. And again, we're already talking about enormous figures. We mentioned, the popularity of gift cards, which has only increased, but relative to 2022, up 50% is a seismic number. And unfortunately, online shoppers were really hit the hardest. We do mention throughout the study that gift cards as a form of payment is really effective in a variety of scams, not just for, say, buying counterfeit goods. But online shoppers were still hit really hard because of how easy it is for a scammer to weaponize what was meant to be a gift. Right, it's right there in the name. Right, it's a gift card. But unfortunately, we're seeing it being used a lot of time for payment for all sorts of products, and not necessarily the ones that folks had originally intended.
And like you said, anytime anyone anyone asks you to pay for anything, no matter what it is, with a gift card, you should immediately have a red flag. But one of the kind of scenarios that was referenced in this study is that it's actually the government needs you to, like, oh, you need to contact the government, you need to move your money out, your bank account could be exposed, you need to move your money out of your bank account onto these gift cards so then we can turn around and you can get a cashier's check from the government. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, the government will never call you and request any sort of payment with gift cards. We see this a lot with things like IRS impersonation scams. So once again, a scammer has convinced you that you owe money on say, back taxes in some scenarios, and they're holding over your head the threat of jail time. Again, folks will start to believe things that they otherwise wouldn't. Right? It's not as simple as why would why would you provide any sort of payment with a gift card, to a government agency? Well, if the decision for folks is between that and going to jail, that's a very easy decision for folks to make when they've been backed into a corner. And of course, scammers love to pose as authority figures because everybody respects a badge, right? So anytime a scammer can impersonate someone you respect, someone who has power or influence over you, they immediately start that conversation with either you on your heels or you giving them a certain amount of respect, which is precisely where they want to be. There's an adage in sales that you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. And the opposite we find is actually true with fraud, where an aggressive strategy really pays out time and time again. So scammers will often present themselves as someone with power over you because that is, in essence, the playing field that they want to be on.
And a lot of times we see, well, I guess maybe I shouldn't assume. I'll pose the question to you, but it starts small. Hey, send us this small amount of money. You send that amount of money, and it's like, oh, well, we need a little bit more. And then it continues to pile up and continues to pile up.
Yeah, I mean, how many folks, have $10,000 that they can put, over a variety of gift cards? Not many, right? So a scammer is, very, very good at knowing, certain socioeconomic data before they make that phone call. There's kind of this assumption, right, that a scammer is just halfway around the world, just prank calling someone. There's a lot more research that is going into these types of schemes in order to scale them and to make them devastatingly effective. So oftentimes, once that scammer has you on the line, they know the amount of money that they can realistically request in order to get that payout. Because again, from their perspective, they're not going to make any money if they ask you for $10 billion and you're only able to realistically give them $1,000. So they have the system refined to such a degree that they know exactly the amount of money to request and to make incremental steps rather than ask for enormous sums for an immediate payout.
And like you just said, this is a very sophisticated organization that these scammers and fraudsters are using, and almost the second you send that money, it's almost gone instantly, because it's not just one person. It may be one person on the phone, but as soon as you send it, they're sending it to their cohorts, wherever they may be, whether domestically or internationally, and that money is then spent almost immediately off that gift card.
One of the biggest obstacles that we run into when we give presentations or do media hits is unpacking this assumption that there is just one person on the other end of the line making that call, that he just randomly picked your number, randomly plucked you out of a deck. These are criminal enterprises, right? I mean, these are gangs. If it originates overseas, there are many times multiple people involved. You hear about call centers that are raided, where you have dozens upon dozens of employees who are working toward the same goal, which is to defraud the American consumer. And oftentimes these are very, very sophisticated operations. So if I could implore someone to understand that when we talk about scams, we talk about fraud, we need to have a better understanding of the scale of these operations, because they have grown by leaps and bounds. And it's very, very difficult, of course, to triangulate where these scams are taking place, especially if the country of origin doesn't want to police that sort of activity. But there are many, many variables. Okay, it is much more sophisticated than somebody, calling, asking if you want to bundle your home and auto insurance, right? Which is like the common stereotype. They're oftentimes much more sophisticated operations than that.
And so, even more important to again recognize the red flags before the purchase goes through. But Josh, if someone thinks they have been a victim of a scam like this, what kind of steps can they take after the fact?
Yeah, so a lot of the methods or the steps that you would take to prevent being a victim of gift card fraud is very similar to other scam types we monitor, which is number one, to keep all of your purchase information. If there is a receipt involved, oftentimes there isn't, right? If it's not a legitimate enterprise, but sometimes there is. You want to make sure you have all of that information bundled, right? You have screenshots if someone has asked you for payment. You have, the number involved if you received a phone call, or the email address. You want to keep all of that information secure, so that way when you come to report it, ideally to the BBB, you have all of this information, which can create a more well-rounded composite of your experience. It'll help us when we investigate it, not feel like we're trying to hit so many moving targets, much as we can control that, right? You want to also contact the business. If there's a business implicated, say that they're impersonating Amazon or another reputable organization, you want to make sure you're contacting that business. They want to know. And a lot of times, if this is a large retailer, say an Amazon, they have an entire division dedicated to stopping fraud. And so this will help them do their job. If you report it to the BBB, of course, we can verify, we can help with that reporting process. We can get you in contact with local law enforcement if it arises to that level. If it arises to a level that involves, say, a lawsuit, the Attorney General's office. But you want to make sure that you're at least reporting your experience and not just assuming that because you made it out away, unscathed potentially, that everyone else is having that same experience. The reality is this is incredibly devastating, as we have touched on throughout the report. Folks losing life-changing sums of money to this type of scam. So you want to make sure that you're protecting the public as much as you can, and the way you do that is by reporting that. And then, of course, immediately informing that business that if there's a gift card specifically that they are searching for, say they want an Amazon gift card. You want to make sure, again, that you're reporting that experience to that business in question so that they can do whatever it is that they need to do to suss out, that perpetrator.
Yeah, if you think you're having a weird experience, someone's probably already had it, and it's hopefully already been documented with someone like the Better Business Bureau. So, again, it's always better to ask more questions and to take more time if you do encounter things like this than to just immediately right away send money, especially through a gift card. I'll ask you real quick, because digital wallets are such a huge thing now. Has that also kind of gotten roped into this discussion as well?
Without a doubt. I think that there are a lot of folks who understand the idea of a physical gift card, but a digital one is a strange proposition, right? So anytime someone passes along, say, an email of a barcode, a digital barcode, it looks like every barcode you've ever seen, right? So it can be very easy to, again, lift that information and say, hey, why don't we swap gift cards, right? I have this digital version. I'm going to send it to you in an email. You just send me, the digits on the back of the physical gift card that you have, and you'll make $10 on the transaction. Well, for a lot of folks, that's a really easy decision to make. Of course, the reality is what you've been passed is a gift card that does not exist. And what you've given them is one that they can immediately deplete the funds for and leave, essentially, because it's very difficult to track any of this sort of information once it's been passed along from scammer to consumer, consumer to scammer. So anytime someone is asking you for payment for with a gift card and specifically requesting this non-traditional form of payment, really, some flags should go off in your head, and you should please tread carefully, because in nearly every situation, these are not legitimate requests. And unfortunately, with the digital space and with this new kind of frontier, it's becoming that much more confusing, which for scammers makes it that much more easy to weaponize.
And I should also just point out, again, the study we're referencing and that we have pulled up on the screen, there is a link to it in the YouTube description if you're watching on YouTube. There's also a link to it on the story on 1011now.com where this video will also live. So I'm going to kind of shift gears here for a second, Josh, and I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't expect any numbers, but it's kind of where my mind drifted to since we're talking about gift cards. And it's not necessarily fraud or scam, but I'm assuming there are a lot of gift cards that get given that eventually never get spent because they end up in your cupboard or wherever it is that you keep your gift cards that you get during the holiday season. And I'm guessing Americans are probably sitting on a lot of money on gift cards that they don't even realize.
A fair assumption. And one of the, I think we mentioned this in the study, I believe, that you want to make sure that you're using the gift cards essentially as quickly as possible, such that that information can't be compromised, much as you can control that. There are a lot of, on the dark web, entire digits of unused gift cards that folks have been able to essentially steal the funds for. A really good way to avoid that is, of course, by using the funds, quickly as you can. But you also want to make sure that you're doing a little bit of inventory, right? If it's taking up space in your wallet or your purse, use the gift card. That's, what its intended use is. It's not going to increase over time. It's in fact going to decrease
There's no
the amount of money
that's going to accrue on
no
that
interest.
gift card.
No interest. So, you use the money, right? Again, you're creating the shortest runway possible for the scammer to infiltrate or to compromise your account. So you want to make sure, again, this is a good time of year to do a little bit of inventory and see if you've got some unused plastic around the house.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I still have a Home Depot gift card I got from my mother last Christmas that's sitting in my in our cabinet at home. So I know what I'm going to do tonight, Josh. I'm going to do some inventory.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Josh. Appreciate your time as always. Is there anything else we want to make sure we mention before we let everyone go?
Tomorrow is a very important day for a lot of folks with Giving Tuesday. You want to make sure that your money is going to a cause or an organization that can actually do something meaningful with it. Unfortunately, we see a lot of organizations that pop up overnight with a very, very moving, emotionally tear-jerking story. That's a fantastic way to scale organizations that frankly might not have the resources or the infrastructure necessary to carry out any sort of nonprofit mission. On Giving Tuesday, you want to make sure you're working with organizations that have proven to be trustworthy over the course of time. We have an entire website dedicated to essentially distilling this experience down to a science. We call it give.org. We have 20 standards of charitable accountability. It covers everything from whether or not a nonprofit has a board of directors to whether or not they've proven to be transparent with the amount of money that goes to advertising or marketing efforts. All of this, presumably, you would want to know before you engage in any sort of philanthropy with an organization. So do a little bit of research before donating. This should be an opportunity to create a meaningful impact. And you want to make sure that the organization has your best intentions in mind.
Very good advice. I had totally forgot that tomorrow was even Giving Tuesday, so that's a good topic to end it on. So, Josh, again, as always, I appreciate you hopping on and joining us today. We'll go ahead and we'll see you next week, all right?
Sounds good. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. All right, again, Josh Planos, as always, thank him for his time joining us. Consumer Safety Spotlight. Again, you can catch it every Monday right around 2 o'clock. Watch it afterwards, either on our 1011 YouTube channel or on 1011now.com. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching. As always, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online, for all of your latest news, weather,